Hello everyone, I'm back with another little video here. If you've seen my review analysis on Elemental, the novel, about now it's time for the actual movie review. And to say right off the bat, this is easily my favorite Pixar movie in a very long time. Um, I mean, the the way I look. I'm not really going into this with a script, so forgive me if I'm kind of all over the place. But I thought Soul was all right. Luca was passable. Turning Red I thought was fairly good. But Elemental, this is hands down the best of the decade so far, and yeah, it is pretty unfortunate how it's not doing well at the box office. It doesn't deserve all the criticism. Not to say, I shouldn't say criticism. It's gotten pretty positive reviews. Like, it has like a 75 on Rotten Tomatoes, a 92 audience score on there, I think, overall. But, a few people have said, like, oh, this movie has this. Oh, I don't want this. Oh, no, it has this theme and all, whatever in it. Really? All this little ridiculous trivial stuff. I'm not going to get into it because it's just ridiculous, the certain amount of criticism I see. You have your opinions, but I don't know. Some of it's just a bit silly. And I genuinely, back to this film though, I genuinely enjoyed it. You have, the story of, Ember, the fire girl, I guess that's her name. Not name, but that's what I guess you can call her. Her parents arrive from Fireland to hope for a better life in Element City. And I love the theme of how they have to flee their home. Because they say in the movie, their home was destroyed in a storm, and they had to leave. That's like the whole immigrant aspect, the whole immigrant story, I think was really well done. And then you have the real shame in it when they arrive in Element City and they find that they adapt but at the same time the whole city it's not really built for fire people, which that's pretty unfortunate, but that was like a real interesting aspect I liked. And like there's like one part when what was it? There was one part when even the themes, I know some people say like, oh, this movie's heavy-handed, but I don't think it was too heavy-handed. It wasn't in your I didn't think it was really in your face, the themes. I didn't think it was overboard. There's a scene which I mentioned in my novel review when Ember's father and her want to get into this exhibit, and the guard doesn't let them in because they're made of fire, and I guess they're afraid that they're going to burn the place down. And one line that the guard says, when I read the novel and when I saw the film, I knew it was coming, but I was like, oh, that's messed up. The line when the guard tells them to go back to Fireland, and I don't think it's coincidental what country it sounds like, which I think was probably the intention, but I thought it was kind of clever. I didn't think it was too heavy-handed or in your face. And then I really liked the part then when Ember says, and then the place got flooded sometime after, which I thought was kind of ironic considering they were so afraid of fire causing damage to this place, but it was really water that caused it. That was kind of an interesting, ironic twist, I guess you can call it. And and then there's the part with when, and then I really like also Ember's inner conflict. Like she's made of fire, but she's, I don't know what the right word is. She's prone to having anger outbursts, and I really like that inner conflict. The fact that she has to fight against that inner instinct to have outbursts, which I really like that aspect of it. It kind of reminds me of this other show series I like on Netflix called Beastars. It's like my favorite anime right now. With Lugosi, the wolf. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. He's a wolf, but he has to fight his inner urges to eat meat, and it's like this inner conflict that I like about that show too. But I like how it's similar. The fact that she has to, in a way, fight these inner conflicts of her having, of her fiery temper getting the better of her. And even one part when she gets real mad at this customer for saying like, "Oh, buy one get one free. That means I'll get one free." And then she says, "That's not how this works." And sets some stuff on fire. And then her dad says, "Ember, what's wrong? What happened? You can't lose your temper," or something like that. And then another part, when she's overwhelmed with running the store. Although working in retail, I've dealt with some people like that said, "Oh, I think I get this deal if I get just this, or get this." A lot of crazy stuff, what to tell you, but it's not another video. And the part when she's overwhelmed with the amount of customers in the store, that's kind of relatable, I guess, to a degree for a lot of people. Then, she realized, doesn't want to let off steam, or let off flames, whatever, fire in the store, so she runs down the basement and then lets it all out, and she accidentally causes this pipe to break. Then Wade comes out of it, and he's like a very emotional kind of guy. I like how, I think even one comment said he reminds me of Mr. Peanut Butter. If you've seen BoJack Horseman, he's the lab. Mr. PB is the lab. He's like the real happy-go-lucky guy. I guess I can see that. Wade. And, they hang out a little bit. And, he's trying to he's like an inspector, and he tells her, he tells her these pipes aren't up to code, So he's like real into his job, it seems, at the beginning. Takes her to City Hall. She follows him. And Ember's worried about the place getting shut down. And disappointing her father. And there's even this other part about how her father, one day, he tells her, "When you're ready, you'll run the shop." I really like that. It's kind of relatable for many. The parents running the shop, and they want their kids to run it or run the business after they're done. And then there's the part and then Wade and Ember bond for a little bit, and it's kind of nice. And they go to a game, and it's a fun scene. And then I like the part then when they start hanging out a bit. He asks her out. The next night, and they go to a movie, and he's like real happy to see her. It's a cute scene. And I really like the part when they're in the theater, and when the lights dim, but she has to like cover herself more because of the fire. Her fire's like, illuminating the place, and that's kind of a sad scene, the fact that she has to hide her true self in that scene, so her light doesn't her light doesn't disrupt everyone else in the theater. I thought that was a poignant scene, I guess, to a degree. And then afterwards, I like even the movie they go to called Pride and Prejudice, which is, a pun on Pride and Prejudice. Similar type of movie, I guess. I haven't seen it, but I thought that was kind of clever. And then they have they go in a photo booth that, you've seen a lot of movies when they take photos of themselves in the photo booth. But this one, because Ember, her light illuminates the whole picture frame, all you see are two sets of eyes, which was kind of funny. Even my audience got a good laugh out of that part. Both times I've seen it. I've seen the movie twice. I really liked it. I don't usually see a movie 2 times. Usually I reserve it if I really, really enjoy it, and there's many, many movies I've seen, which I might make a list of soon. And then there's a part, and then I really like the part then when they're in the hot air balloon, and he's close to her, but he starts to boil, so he has to step away from her in that scene, and I thought that was a really kind of poignant scene there, how he wants to be close, but can't be too close. And that's like the whole aspect I like, the fact that how do they trying to work out their relationship, but even though there's a lot of complications, I guess, with it. And then, as I said earlier, the story about how Ember and her dad were refused entry into the exhibit. And after she's done telling it, Wade, tears up and he says, you must have been so scared. And I thought that was a real poignant scene too. And then, speaking of which, I can't believe I forgot to mention this at the beginning when it shows Ember's parents at customs. They have, real, I'm trying to find the word, real foreign names. I don't know if that's the right term, but the guard says, not the guard, the customs official can't pronounce it, so he just says, oh, how about Bernie and Cinder? I thought that was a clever play because I've heard of many stories of, people's names getting simplified or Americanized. I think that's the right term, I'm not sure, but people simplify, Americanize the name so it sounds more American. I think, but I thought that was kind of a messed up scene, but that was probably the point. And I like the part then when when Ember starts having, inner doubt about having, running the shop, and the scene when she and Wade are on the beach, and she says, how do you repay a sacrifice? Although I don't get the line, though, with a sacrifice, you sacrifice your life. Wait, hold up. Okay, I got the novel here, and the part, I like then when she gets sad, like her flame starts to dim. I thought that was a real nice touch. And, that was kind of sad to watch, I guess. He said, my Ashva should have retired years ago, but he doesn't think I'm ready. No idea how hard they've worked or what they've had to endure, the family they left behind. How do you repay a sacrifice that big? It all feels like a burden. How can I say that? I'm a bad daughter, she whispered. Wade crouched beside her. Hey, no, he said, you're doing your best. And in this part, I was kind of confused by this next line, and I saw this in the film. This was in the film, too. Ember says, I'm a mess. She fired up her flames trying to cover her vulnerable light. Nah, said Wade. I think you're even more beautiful. I was a little confused by that, because why would he think her being sad was beautiful? It's kind of odd. I don't know. That was just one line I was like, meh, I don't really get that line. But, so they have sandbags with, because there's this hole in a dam and they put sand there so the place doesn't flood out. But the water eventually gets through, and but then in that scene I mentioned, then she creates glass, and I think they figure, you know what, we'll maybe use glass to put in front of the dam, and they do that. And then after that, then she meets Wade's family, and that's kind of a clever scene with his cousins, I think, are Marco and Polo. I know some people found that corny, but I thought it was kind of funny, clever. And there was one line I liked that was kind of a little racist. I don't know if I should say racist. I don't know. I'll say insensitive. That's more, I think that's the better term. It was the part when his uncle, what's his name here? Uncle Harold. The part when he says, I just have to say that you speak so well and clear. And then Ember. And then and if you watch the movie, then Wade even gives his uncle a look like what? Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, even he's like, really? Thought that was kind of clever, funny. And then I do like the line, as I said, with when Wade's mother says, Wade hasn't stopped talking about you since the day you met. The boy is smitten. Mom, cried Wade, mortified. I didn't expect... And then she says, I didn't know she'd be so smoky. And then they play this thing called the crying game, which, you know... Oh, wait, before that, I like the part then when they accidentally... Who broke it? Alan, one of the family members, breaks a vase, and Ember fixes it. And she doesn't realize everyone's, like, enamored by it. And she gets, like, real flustered after when everyone's praising and clapping, I think. It says, so Ember's face burned. It's just melted glass, she said modestly. So I like how she was like in the spotlight, you know, became self-conscious, blushed, it looked like. Although the movie, I think you could see her blushing in a way. If it's real subtle, but if I recall that you see, if you look at her face closely, you see it really turning red. And it's real subtle, and I think you do see it. It's real subtle, but I think it's there. And then they play the crying game and, you know, silly stuff. She says, Ember says, I've never cried. And then silly stuff they joke about, trying to make her cry. But then I like the part when he praises her and he says, Ember, when I met you, I thought I was drowning, but that light has made me feel so alive, and all I want now is to be near you together. And if you see the movie, there's like a little interlude, is that the right word? When the camera zooms into her eye. It's a real cool shot. It zooms into her right eye, I think it was. And she imagines her and Wade like kind of like joining hands around each other. And she tries to touch his hand, but then she like repels away from him. and the camera zooms out, and you see like a lava. You see, excuse me, you see a lava tear go down her eye, and then that was a that was a pretty touching scene. And then and then even his family looks on like enamored by it. So that was touching. And then later on, then she finds out her dad is going to retire from the shop, and you know, she's not sure if she wants to run it. And I mean, I really like that aspect. You know, she was, and then you see the one part that some people brought up is the glass dam. Some people have said that they're not sure why the dam starts to break. Now, I could be wrong, but I think there's a subtle clue to it. And that scene when after her dad announces retirement, she's very upset that she's going to have to run the shop, and she starts to cry, and then it cuts to the dam, the glass dam, and it starts to crack. Now, and then at the end, I'll get to the end in a bit, but then, then Wade's mother recommends an internship for Ember because of her talent about the glass and all that. And then it leads into this part. Then they visit the Vivisteria, which is the flower she was going to see as a kid, with an air bubble. And I thought that was a cool scene. That I really love this scene then when he holds out his hand after they're up in the from the surface, and she says, Wade, we can't touch. He says, maybe we can. Although that harkens back to an earlier scene, funny scene when they're clapping at the game. And he tries to high-five Ember, but then he realizes he can't really touch her. So then he just high-fives himself. It was kind of funny. Another funny scene was when they're at the table. And when a bubble comes out of his head, he says, ooh, thought bubble. I got a good laugh out of the audience. And then, but the scene here, he says, we can prove it. We'll know this would never work. So then he starts small. And at first they can't touch hands. His hand starts to bubble. Ember's yanks her back. Then they try again, and they do. Able to touch, and they press their palms together like this. And I really do like this scene. So they press their palms together like this, and then they go like this. And that's like I thought that was a real nice shot there. And the score by Thomas Newman, I thought was real well done in that scene too. And then they start even to slow dance a little bit, which, no pun intended, I thought that was a pretty touching scene. And, then Wade says, I'm so lucky I have you. But then that reminds Ember to, her dad, because throughout the movie, he's like, up there in age, it seems. It's the job is getting to him. And they have this little argument. At first, when I got to this scene, I was like, we're going to do that cliche. It's a third act breakup. And thankfully, it's written well, because you can see from both their perspectives, they both have a point. And he says, back to my life at the shop. Ember said where I belong, I take over tomorrow. Then Wade says, you don't want that. Then Ember says, it doesn't matter what I want. Then Wade says, of course it does. You got an opportunity to do something you want with your life. Then she says, yeah, that may work in your rich kid. Because, he's real wealthy. And this may work in your rich kid, follow your heart family. We get to do what you want as a luxury and not for people like me. And then he says, this whole time I thought you were strong, but it turns out you're afraid. And then Ember gets real mad and she says, don't you dare judge me. You don't know what it's like to have parents who gave up everything for you. And she says, I'm fire, Wade. I can't be anything more than that. It's what I am and what my family is. I can't throw all that away just for you. All Wade could say was, I don't understand. This is like a real complex scene in my opinion, because they're both right to a degree, I think, and they both have some fair points. Despite the cliche here at the end, it's over Wade. Trying to hold back tears. Hood her hood over her flames. And then they have like a little ceremony. Her taking over the shop, and then I like that scene earlier. Then Ember's father, with Wade, has him try these hot stones or nuts, I think, and they're real hot to him, and he waters them down, but he gets pretty offended by that. He says, "Oh, how dare you water us down?" And he kicks him out of the shop, banning him on a band wall, which was kind of funny. And then this part here, then towards the end, there is a liar revealed, the cliche, which I'll get to. I like then he says, "So you're the one that burst the pipes," accused Bernie. "What?" Wade said. "Not me. It was." His eyes involuntarily darted back to Ember. Don't you hate that when that happens? Involuntarily does something, you're like, oh no, why'd I do that? And then this part, then when he says, you must, he said, I love you, Ember. I've learned to embrace the light when it burns. And then Ember says, no, I don't. And then the crack in the glass starts to get bigger. And then Ember gets real heated and says, I don't love you. It's a construction vehicle out there. And then Bernie glared at Ember. You have been seeing water? I think, though, this part when Ember says, I don't love you, I don't think she meant that. I think she was under a lot of pressure to run the shop, in that moment. And also with Wade, I think she knew her father wouldn't approve of him. It wasn't very approving of him. And even her family in general, I don't know about that. Her mom was on the fence about it. And this part, some people wondering why the glass dam was breaking. In my opinion, I think because Ember's emotions, I think. Because earlier, as I said, when she cries upon hearing that she's going to have to run the shop, a little crack starts to form in the glass. And then this scene here, she says, "No, wait, I don't." And then the crack gets bigger. And then when she hollers, "I don't love you," then the crack gets bigger again. And then it bursts eventually. A couple times, Ember, I have to admit, I have to see the film. I don't know if I missed it. I think she might have blushed when I said Wade's family was praising her. And then, Bernie gets mad at her for causing the leak, albeit accidentally, but lying to him, saying it was Wade, I think, that did it. Saying, oh, hold up. Okay, I'm back, everyone. I just had to take care of something real quick. There's a scene when Ember blushes when her friend says, where was it? On page 58, I think it was. When Gail, their cloud friend, says, "You two are a cute couple." Well, Ember's cheeks burned. I don't know if her cheeks is on the movie, if I saw her blush. This part here, when Bernie says, "Oh, you caused the leak in the shop." And then, the shop, and then like the part when a couple, I guess because her mom does like fortune readings or something, sprays water at the couple kissing. She goes, "Hey, save it for another time." That's kind of funny. So then, I think she said then, yeah, it was she didn't know the name Wade. It was Wade that caused the fire, caused the pipes to burst. Then he says, "You will not take over the shop. I no longer retire." And Party gets quietly to leave. Yeah, that's a pretty awkward party at that point. Then the flood starts to come in. Speaking of which, I said, I think the glass was breaking, I think, because of Ember's emotions. It's subtle, it's never explicitly said, but I think that was the implication. And yeah, I just saw about that Coast Guard with that board that missing submersible. I mean, that's a messed up story, but that's not the point of this video right now. So, early when she cries upon hearing that she's going to have to take over the shop, she starts to cry. Then the glass starts to break, and then here when she gets mad at Wade, the glass cracks more. I think it was a subtle hint was her